G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is a Sterling SMG in it. This is a British-made submachine gun, which was first developed around the year 1944, so most of the Second World War this thing missed, and it eventually replaced the Sten SMG in 1953. Perhaps the most culturally interesting thing about this particular submachine gun is that what you're looking at here is the E11 blaster rifles used by the stormtroopers in the Star Wars movies. You can see from little bits of it. So the magazine out the side, obviously that's cut down a little bit with the E11. You've got the semicircle shape back here with the rear sights and the front sight there looking very reminiscent of that. You've got all of these holes along the barrel. Obviously that's missing the fins, and it's missing the scope up the top and that weird fold down stock that they've got tucked under the barrel for some reason, but it's mostly there. I do like the fact that the even though it was like a score of a cheap prop, SMGs were cheap at the time, so they made them into movie props, but the fact that, you know, the stormtroopers were using weapons of the British Empire, I feel like that was pretty well suiting, and the weapon itself, I think, is iconic how it is, so perhaps that's this thing's biggest legacy, but let's talk about the gun instead of Star Wars movies that suck these days thanks to Disney. But enough about that, let's talk about this thing in its Fallout 4 mod form. So we're chambering the 38 rounds, which is close enough to its 9mm parabellum rounds that it shoots in real life. I don't mind that it's using an ammo source that's in the vanilla game. Makes it easy to plug and play with this thing. We're only getting 30 damage out of this thing, so proper pipe gun spec type damage out of that, so we might have to temper expectations on what performance this thing can give. It's got custom animations to suit, and I believe the sounds are that of the pipe gun, which is fine. We're firing the same rounds, and generally you probably won't be hearing the pipe gun a lot during your playthrough anyway, since it's a very early game weapon, which you can basically skip over. Let's get into the attachments. First of all, we've got the receivers. This thing can only be fired in automatic fashion. The powerful receiver giving us 48 points of damage, which is okay, I guess. So let's move on to the next one. Got a short barrel. You can have a longer barrel that'll give you a little bit more in the range. There's also a tactical version of that with a proper little handguard there with the heat shield there, so proper gun safety, looks a little bit more comfortable, and you won't burn your fingers if you want to fire this thing for sustained long periods. So we'll go for a long tactical barrel there, a little bit of range, a little bit of accuracy. Won't say no to that. And you can have a recoil compensating stock, a little less ramshackle there, a little less cobbled together. Makes it look a little bit cooler, I guess. Although that pistol grip, that's gonna have to change. But yeah, this thing is sort of leaning more into the pipe gun sort of art style, because this is going to look a little bit more rough around the edges than what we see our SMGs or other tactical real-life weapon mods. So, you know, it's probably going to be a little bit more suited to the lore of this thing. It's a little bit beat up, a little rough around the edges, so I don't mind that in terms of its art direction. We've got a magazine here, a standard magazine, or a box magazine, which looks like that. I don't know, I think I want to plug a VCR tape into that. Is that going to, like, project something? I don't really know what's going on there. It's an interesting design, but that's what it is. Next, we've got the sights. You can have standard sights as we see them right now. Reflex sights, which look like that. Then you've got a reflex sight, which is a cross, which gives you no housing around it, just a flat screen. You can just see it. That's actually really cool. I can see the sight right now. I'm going to use that one. That's an easy choice. There's also an option for a holographic sight, which looks like that. Short scopes, night vision scopes, recon scopes, no mediums. There's just short, night vision, and recon. So there you go. No sniper status for this thing. Or is there? We'll find out. Next, we've got the muzzles. You can have no muzzle. Either have that or the suppressor, because the compensator will reduce your range by not an insignificant amount. Yeah, the recoil is going to be a little bit more stronger if you don't have this on, but it's not worth losing the range of this thing, especially since we're doing such little amounts of damage. If you want to, you know, tickle people from a distance, you don't want that, so you keep this range as high as you can. But if you get the suppressor, we've got Ace Operator to boost that damage up to a more lean, mean 60. Next, we've got Legendary effect provided by Legendary Modification. Skip over that, and now we can change this tactical pistol grip. That one. That looks cool. Improved recoil and hipfire accuracy. Looks a little bit cleaner now, a little bit more looked after. Perhaps this reflex sight is the only thing making it look like making it look a little bit less refined, although I'm ignoring the giant oil filter suppressor on the front. They could have probably used literally any other suppressor for that, but since it's like a pipe gun stand-in, I suppose that'll have to do. So there's one of our Sterling SMGs. I'll make another one, another couple, see if we can get some use out of this thing in a couple of different ways, but we'll show you how to get them. But before we do that, quick comparison between this and a pipe gun. It looks like the stats are fairly identical. The pipe gun is, however, a lot lighter and slightly less accurate and less valuable, so that's an interesting choice. Do you want something that's light in your inventory or will do the same amount of damage, or something that's heavier that won't look like it's going to fall apart if you look at it in a wrong way? Like, look at this thing. Do you want that, or would you like that? That's a pretty easy choice, but I would like to see this thing do a little bit more damage than your standard pipe rifle, because if they're playing the same role, there's obviously tactical advantages to having a weapon that only weighs 6.5 pounds compared to 22.7. That's assault rifle weight. Madness. The Sterling SMG is injected onto the level list at level 13, so very, very low level gun, and the weapon damage is, I suppose, adjusted accordingly. So that'll cost you 126 caps, which is pretty dirt cheap. That's cheap enough to make movie props out of, that's for sure. Remember, go to Cleo's. Guns, guns, guns. Purchase in variety. Hang on, I can't read the script. I got handed the script and it's all in binary. What do you expect me to do with this, Cleo? Okay, we're on the inside of Gunners Plaza today because, you know, we're not game to take on a platoon of gunners with a pipe gun of equivalent. Anyway, so here's our Sterling SMG in first person, and I guess we couldn't be bothered cleaning the lens of this reflex sight before we started, but oof, that's not good. Anyways, that's what it looks like in first person, and in third person, you got animations. They're slightly jank, but as long as you're looking from this direction, you won't even bloody notice. Here's the second one that I made. This one is basic as they come. It's just got a powerful receiver and a recoil compensating stock and the upgraded pistol grip, but it's looking pretty basic. And lastly, we've got sniper status in quotations. A short scope, a longer barrel, suppressor, and we'll see how we go there. Okay, so this thing's got a 60-round magazine with the drum. That might give it the edge over the pipe gun in terms of its damage output. You get a little bit more ammo capacity. If you're wondering, I believe the pipe gun capacity is 48 with the drum magazine. So far, so okay. And now that we're in danger, we'll have to get a little bit closer to deal with these guys. And yeah. If we can nail headshots, then we can do an okay amount of damage, I suppose. This thing's not really fighting me in terms of recoil, so we can easily just keep it on their noggins if we feel like it, or on their bums if they decided to stick through a door like that. That's interesting. Mr. Power Fist will just chop him up with a submachine gun like that, make him stagger backwards. An easy kill. But yeah, if I was taking on more than, say, 2 or 3 people at once, this might cause issues, but for a, you know, more of a vanilla playstyle where you're not going to be taking on an entire platoon at once, then I guess you can get away with it just fine. Anyways, so the SMG in its naked form, like this. There's a reload animation. Now, first things first, we're gonna get in here a little bit, make sure old mate doesn't pick up the grenade launcher. Is it in here? There it is. Stay away from the grenade launcher, mate. And I lined that up perfectly to destroy the turret behind him with a little bit of extra spread that it gave me. I'm going to just take this, actually. Now, what are you going to do? Not blow me up across the room like you always do, you bastards. Alright, we'll take out that turret, and we'll start working on that guy. So as you can tell, they are bullet sponging it up a little bit. Worth mentioning that, yes, I'm playing on very hard difficulty, so half of the damage before the bullets even fired is going to be taken from me, and whatever damage I'm hitting them with is getting eaten up by their armor. That's time, baby. You can go okay, just okay with this thing if you consistently nail headshots, and if you want to use criticals and bypass all of that armor that they're wearing, then that's a thing you can do too. But unless you get this thing with some wicked, crazy, cool, legendary effect, I think you're gonna struggle. Just quietly. Come on. But what I could do is this. I'll go prone and start roly-poling around the place. Or maybe do this. Look at me. I'm super tactical. They can't even hit me. Just ignore the reload animation. This is set up for a RU-556. So stop looking at the weapon right now. Look at the target. Yes. I always love this. I believe the term is supine or whatever, supine. But when you go forward in this mode, it looks like that you're a dog who's got worms who's scratching their ass on the ground like that. I remember, and you can get up now. Thank you. I remember there was this episode of The Simpsons. I can't remember which episode it was, but they're all cleaning up the house, and even the Santa's little helper was getting involved. He had a cloth under his ass, and he was going up and down the hallway with an animation that looks a little bit like that. Okay, now we can move. And I think Homer did it as well. I can't remember what episode that's from, but I think it's there. My brother used to talk about it as well. What is that? That's a Gatling laser. Well, I'm gonna need you to put that down. And I was very fortunate to get a couple of staggers out of that because, yeah, she would have messed me up. That's an old school Gatling laser. Wouldn't stand up too long to that. And that is Nerd Rage. We've only got 5 left in this magazine, so we'll switch over. Remember, switching to another primary is faster than reloading your other primary. And get a little bit of health out of that Nerd Rage run. One of the gunners, though, run down here, so I have to deal with them. Low health. They tried to get away, but obviously they couldn't do that. So I think I'm not gonna say that we struggled, but you know, this thing had to work pretty hard to kill these guys. But again, it's only a pipe gun thing, and you can get away with it, perhaps if you're using some crazy legendary effects. Speaking of which, perhaps we want to use them. Also, apply this. Feeling better? Yeah. Okay, we've applied some legendary effects to our Sterling, so let's see how we go. See if you can pick what this one is. Oh yeah, good old-fashioned stealth commandoing now. We're not quite in range of that, but we'll just continue to keep backing off and sniping at him as cheaply as possible. And since we're in broad daylight, that is bound to happen. But yep, this one, obviously explosive. Pretty effective. You get all of that extra damage from the explosive projectiles, which is probably doing the most of it. Oh no, little bighorner. Don't kill him. Okay, I think I did. Dares, I don't give a shit about. You can die. Poor little baby bighorner. Anyway, so he's mutated, which is pretty good signs. Next up, we'll try this one. See if you can get this legendary effect. Post a comment in this web zone, and I'll send you a pizza roll if you get this legendary effect right. But clearly not as effective against the big man as our explosive one. But I may have got him stuck inside a tree. So I've got that going for me, which is nice. Alright, let's hit him up with a little bit, and that's pretty ineffective weapon. I would have expected a little bit more in terms of how we get a little bit more AP usage or efficiency. 4 shots only in VATS, I think. A little bit of a disappointment there, but you know, if they're accurate enough, you can do it. Are you gonna just sit there? Because if you are, then that's good for me. We'll add some extra criticals in the mix. There goes all my VAFS criticals. And you know what? This fight's over. Let's just bring this home by shooting him in the head. No. He's taken good head cover, but the rest of it, no good. Alright, he's got himself unstuck. But with this gigantic magazine coupled with the explosive legendary effect, we can deal with him fairly effectively. Okay, that only leaves this one left. So let's find out what this legendary effect is. You could probably pick it pretty easy, but stay tuned. You're about to find out. Okay, we've finally arrived at the Death Lobster's pond. There he is. He's sitting there vibing, and there he is. So we've got some AP. We may as well use it, and we get more shots. I suppose we've got a shorter barrel, yes. So I suppose that makes sense. Anyways, have at him, and try to get as many shots in as possible. And this weapon mod, it commits the cardinal sin of the weapon foley being about as loud as the oh, cracky, that was a bad hit. Weapon foley being as loud as the weapon firing itself, which is no good. Anyways, so if you can't pick the legendary effect by now, I don't know what to tell you. Made short work of him, but that's just, you know, what happens when you put Furious on an automatic weapon of ranged power. But I think you get the idea. With a couple of powerful legendary effects, this thing will make the game a walkover. But if you want to go without your legendary effects, then the game might walk over you instead. So, you know, unless you ditch this thing after you finish with your early game stuff, which, you know, would be highly recommended. So that there is the Sterling SMG. If you've started a new game or are planning to start a new game and you really like the Sterling SMG, you might find some use for it there. But if you've got a high-level player and high-level character, sorry, and you've got no reason to use a weapon that is going to be around the stats of a pipe gun, then you might want to give this one a miss. But if you want to rebalance this thing yourself, if you've got the means to do that, at least on a PC, then you can make this thing a little bit better, just so it sort of carves out a niche for itself, or rather, it just sets itself apart from weapons that are already present in the vanilla game. So there's things and options you can do there, at least on PC, to make it worth your while. But this thing's a little bit weak, and it's kind of disappointing. So maybe they could up the damage just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more of a use, because you've got either a 20-pound submachine gun or a 6.5-pound submachine gun when fully upgraded to utilize. And, you know, for a survival playthrough, that's a no-brainer. No matter how terrible the gun looks in your hand, you can just ignore it, I suppose. But there it is. So if you are interested in seeing this weapon in your game, check out the link in the description. I'll recommend it for a low-level player only, but anything higher than that, you might find it struggling, or it just probably won't do the job for you. And on that note, thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.